Hi, Russ here. Welcome to another episode of Tools of the Hobby. And today we're going to talk about reference material. Yeah, I know, it's a big topic, right? I'm going to divulge what goes on our model building libraries. No, that would be chaos. I'm not going to go through every book that I possess. But what I shall do is give you a general overview of what a typical model builder's library generally looks like and generally what the topics are. Alright, so what is it? We're model builders. What exactly are we looking for? What are our questions? Well, it's a kind of a microcosm of anyone who works in academics, right? I mean, scholars are constantly in libraries, right? They have questions and they're seeking answers. Well, same thing with model building, where on our workbench, I run into a problem and I got to figure out what's going on. How do I figure this out? Well, you usually go to a library where you go find another individual who also is a model builder who may have an answer, right? It's as simple as that. Alright, so what are they looking for? In general, I'll start off, and there's no order to my list. It's just, I'm just popping out of my head, but inspiration, right? We're seeking inspiration to our model. What's our model going to look like? What's our model going to be mounted on? Is it going to go on a base? Things like that. Is my model historically representative of a particular unit? Well, I need evidence to show, did tanks have this kind of dent on this sort of thing? Did a tank have this or that? So, we're inspired. We're inspiration. We're looking for reference. Let's put that number 2. Reference. Was the P-47 painted with such and such a thing at such and such a date at such and such a with such a tongue twister, a unit. These are all the things we're looking for. If you're doing cars, I'm not a car builder, but I'm sure car builders have this also similar questions, right? Inspiration to fuel. It gives us energy and fuel to get our models past the finish line. And I need tons of inspiration because I never finish anything. Look at my models, they just pile up. Inspiration, reference material. Technical data. Technical data, yes. Especially with model building, technical data becomes an issue because sometimes the kit manufacturers don't provide all the real data, and so we got to scratch build and do things to make it look accurate, right? So that creates a whole journey, right? And then there's like technique, not so much in the model, but in ourselves, our fingers, especially with painting. Airbrushing, spray painting, scratch building, those are all techniques and things. And can someone just poof make it happen? Maybe, probably, but most of us need a book or some sort of guide to help us along. So those are 4 solid categories I think I just mentioned, and that's generally the gist of the average model builder's library. Now, before I go in, I'm just going to give you some samples of what is in my library. And again, I'm not here to recommend books to anyone. I'm just trying to give guidance. But before I go into books, we must take a moment to pause and look at the reality. It's the 21st century, the internet is upon us, and I certainly use it. Here I am on YouTube. So we got to talk about that a little bit, because that in itself is a reference, right? I'm not saying to move away from books and stuff like that, because the internet doesn't like replace. It just adds to the mix. So now my library is both physical books, but it's also digital. So, for example, I just download pictures. If I'm looking for references and things, or inspiration, or eye candy, I'll just download, and I got all my JPEGs, and I put them in flash drives, or they're on my laptop, I have an old Windows XP next to my workbench, and I dump it all into there. I have this huge database. I have all these files. I try to make sense of it. And, I just go Tiger Tanks, Panzer IV, D through H, different folders, right? It's just a pile of folders. Airplanes, cars, whatever. And it's all there. Alright. Next, YouTube. Well, YouTube's awesome. Because now it's like, you get this like non-stop, never-ending library. It's just like, we have all these YouTube people, or companies, or channels, and they're just like, dumping all these videos on us. And, it's really cool. I can't recommend it enough. I'm usually hesitant about a lot of things at first, but YouTube's pretty cool. I mean, I'm sure there's pros and cons to it, but it's free, right? And you can meet other people. You can build a friendship, right? I never thought that'd be possible, but you can. Seeking out people with similar attitudes or interests, right? And it just goes on and on and on, right? So you got the YouTube. Downloading pictures. So stepping away from the internet and digital age, but what's the classic is joining a local club, right? International Plastic Modeler Society, right? Boom, there's chapters everywhere, right? I belong to one, and it's a great experience. Again, well, let's just start off. I'm just going to grab a few, and again, these are just samples. So I'll just start off with what was available for me. Back in the day, 1986, I was probably, 11, 12 years old, and, scratched up enough money to buy, Shepard Payne's book. And then he had another one on dioramas. Some people may say it's an old book, it's out of style, or out of date. Well, not really, right? Especially if you're a new model builder and you're new to this is still going to be as valuable now as it was yesterday. So I'm not making a pitch, but I'm just saying this is pretty good stuff. And there are countless of model builders out there that look back to this book with fond memories and pretty much what got them to be the model builders they are today. Okay, so I'm trying really hard not to sell anything. What's in these books? What's in it? What's so whoop-de-doo about it? Well, I mean, Shepard Payne really was awesome, and he really hit it. You're inspired in here. You're getting technique in here. There's good instruction. He talks about reference for a little bit, how to get books, which I guess in a sense is what I'm doing. It's a little bit more complex. But it's got a lot of stuff in here. Alright. Probably every library should have one of these. Yeah, probably. I think this is a good place to start. If you're a beginner model builder, I will say, you know what? You're not going to go wrong with these books. So, yeah. It's my YouTube channel. I can do what I want. So, you should probably have those in there. Other books I have, painting figures is still very revolutionary to me, so I'm still kind of cultivate painting. So if I can find books that have painting techniques, I'll pick it up. So this one author, Mike Davidson from Osprey Publishing, it's a pretty cool little book. And it's not just a lot of eye candy pictures. Sometimes the problem with the criticism with eye candy, it's just that you're the kid outside the shop who has no money, so all you can do is look and dream, but you're never going to actually do anything. You're just looking at it. You actually want to be in the candy shop buying the candy and consuming the candy. So like this book, it does. He goes into it. He goes step by step. Techniques, using a lot of techniques. This book probably came out late 80s, early 90s. Most of the techniques are still relevant now. It's a good primer, a good starter for figure painting, especially for I mean, he's got a few 19th century stuff, but most of it's medieval and ancients, which is exactly what this book's about. It's got painting of the ancients and the medieval. He's got another book where he's got some 19th century figures. So if you're into like knights and ancient Romans, like I'm doing my Roman Legionnaire, I'm definitely looking at this book. Alright, good stuff. This book, see, the Concord Publishing is another company that's out there, and it's pretty high tech. You got some good references, color plates, but it's also technical data. So if you want to know what your tank is supposed to have, this kind of wheel, like this is like the Jagdpanzer, right? Like the Jagdpanzer 4, right? The old Tamiya kit. It doesn't have the steel wheels in the front because it would sink in or something. So like this would talk about that whole like technical development. So if you're interested in like the history of the actual vehicle and the assembly of it and the production and the gizmos and the mechanical engineering, there's a lot of this Concord Publishing does a good job with that, which is helpful if you're trying to update an older model kit, scratch build some details because the pictures are very specific, and it's pretty good stuff. Highly, again, pretty recommended. Most of the books that I have in my library, I would recommend to anybody. Though I have a few that I'm not kind of. Another big company that's out there is the, like Osprey Publishing, New Vanguard Press. Steve Zaloga. He's an author to a lot of these books. These books, it's a dice roll, whether it's good or not. It's got a lot, again, technical data, like Concord Publishing. It definitely has color plates, reference pictures, there's some eye candy. The technical data sometimes isn't, you think it's there, and then you read it, and you're like, no, it really doesn't. I have a bunch of them upstairs. It's especially like, you can't like talk about the Panzer IV in one book. There's many variants, and usually they only give like 1 or 2 sentences about what was the characteristic difference. I'm looking for a little bit more, especially like, I got the old Tester's Italy Panzer IV. It's called a J, but it's really a G. And so trying to figure out a G from a J, it's like I have a stack of different reference books that I've been like going through, trying to figure out the specific differences so I can scratch build those differences or take things out that shouldn't be there. So it becomes a very technical nightmare. I'm going through a lot of books, but that's the whole point of the reference library, is so that we can find these answers or solutions to these problems that we might have in our hobby. So generally these books are pretty good. I would recommend get a review, go on Amazon and read reviews and see, try to find something that helps you out. Because that's the worst thing about getting library books, is that sometimes you waste money. No, I'm not trying to be, how do I say this without sounding like a jerk, but you don't want to shell out the money. I can't afford this kind of stuff all the time. I mean, I have to kind of make sure I'm on a budget, right? If you're not, fine, whatever. But I am, so like I kind of get irritated if I get a book and I find out it's useless. It's like, damn, I just spent 20 bucks and this book doesn't do much for me. So I will recommend, if you can, try to get reviews from other people at a club, YouTube, Amazon review section. That's a good plus. I don't think I mentioned, but and I should have mentioned this from the beginning, and I didn't, so I apologize and whatever. But there is the whole idea of getting a subscription to a magazine, right? Fine scale modeling. It's good stuff, right? It's good stuff. 1 year, 2 year subscriptions. There's a lot of material in here. I go back and reference things all the time. Now, is everything you need in here all the time? No. There's a lot of stuff that's in here I'm not going to use. I don't do a lot of commercial airplanes. I don't do as many ships. But there's tanks, there's planes, there's a few figure things. I think my criticism with the magazine, they could probably beef up the figure section a little bit, and I think they are moving. They're doing something to remedy that problem. There's Airfix modeling magazine. I have a bunch of those. That's pretty good stuff. Military modeling. There's a lot out there. Check them out. A subscription is probably another good thing. I think if getting a library is complex, start off with a subscription. They'll serve you well. Again, Airfix has like sometimes their how-to where they talk about just model building stuff. They talk about the lists of materials you can use. Here's another company. This is a aviation publication. Whew. Yeah, these guys. Anyway, if you're an airplane model builder, you probably have some of these and know what I'm talking about. It's from Squadron Signals, but they got some really nice stuff in here. It's like everything you want to know about a P-47. I mean, they got the walk-around thing. They go into the cockpits. They rip things apart, color pictures. They try to find subjects that have original paint on it, and they go into the technical data. So again, this covers a huge range of what we talked about in our categories of reference material and what we're seeking. Sometimes it's probably a little too high-tech. Like, it's nice. I might only use a fraction of what's in here just to get through like the cockpit, which I sometimes in airplane model building I still find very like, woo, out there. It's kind of complicated, but it's good stuff. Alright, another book that's very similar. Doesn't really have the great reference pictures, but it's mostly just pure model building. And this is from Airframe. And this was all, I was struggling with the whole concept of rigging one year. And so I found this book and it had some really cool rigging step-by-step techniques. And that's what I like about this particular company or whatever author, is that he really does go through step-by-step. How do you do it? And the different techniques that are available. And it's a good read. And it's definitely, it inspires me and gives me technical data, or technique. Not so much technical data, but technique. So I would say this is probably like a technique-only book with some inspiration. Because it says, yes, you actually can, there is a solution to your problem. Just follow the techniques. Alright, so it's pretty good stuff. I will say, this will probably be the only book I talk about that I have criticism. And I think I already mentioned the whole like eye candy thing, and you're outside the shop and you can't get in and the only thing you can do is look at it. Well, that, I guess when you boil it down, that's what eye candy is. And I hope this company has improved. I haven't purchased a book from them since I got this book when I was a kid, because it totally deflated everything for me. So I picked up this Verlinden book back in the late 80s. This is volume 1 on diorama building. And it's an amazing book. It's got great eye candy. This stuff is like, you just drool. Right? The model builder. You know, I think this is Francois Verlinden's own works. I'm not sure. But, I mean, it's just amazing stuff. But it doesn't say anything about how did you do it? There's nothing. There's very little. Like the first page, it gives you a basic list of like tools, and then there may be a few other pages where they show a little bit of the basic build up, and then the rest is just finish line. It's all the final reveal. There's nothing in the middle. It doesn't say how you arrive to the finish line, and so like that's kind of the criticism. Is like I didn't learn anything from this book. I just was inspired and I got eye candy. That's about it. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I mean, maybe that's what you want. For me, I kind of stay away from this. I don't need this. I can go download stuff for free if I want. I'd rather spend my money elsewhere. Another section of books is, especially when it comes to painting, figures is like, especially World War II, you know, everything's in black and white. so that becomes problematic when it comes to painting. And I want to see the real deal, so I go into like the books that I publish for reenactors, and because what they do is they have either models or reenactors themselves, and it takes some really nice professional pictures of the actual uniforms. Usually they're original material, sometimes it's reproduction. I'm not as much of a purist about that. I don't care. I just want a generalization. Remember, we're painting in smaller scale. Anyway, these are good books. They're a little pricey, and we'll talk about price towards the end, but these are great reads. Most of it's just photos with a little bit of captions, but really what why I'm getting these books is just for color. I need color reference. It's really olive drab and the buff on the U.S. khaki, that kind of stuff. It's very helpful. And especially with the Waffen-SS uniforms, to get all those different styles of camouflage. This book has been a really nice work. Nice work indeed. And flipping out, for books that are probably, if you're on a budget, get Squadron Signal books. I mean, these things at a model show, you can get them for like $3, maybe $5. eBay, probably maybe 10, 15. This has a lot of stuff. This is what I was using. I have stacks of these. This is what I could afford back in the 90s. It's got a lot of great reference pictures. It always has your eye candy on the back. Inspiration. There's some technical information, not a lot as other books, but I think it's a good primer, good startup source. And the pictures are usually really nice. The resolution is really good, you know, so I like it. I got 2 more books. Another one is history books. Can be pretty good. This is one of probably this goes along with my Verlinden and my Payne books, but this book was this book is, again, this is 1986. It was a flea market find. My mother actually picked it up for me. Still lost the price tag on it. It's Bruce Query. I think he's an English historian. He's got a few books out there, but it's full of good picture references, and again, good resolution pictures. I don't know if Bruce Query was a model builder or not. He makes a few offside remarks that reference model building, so maybe he was or is. I don't know if he's still alive, but these are great pictures. He's got even some color photos. Most of it's just like basic history with a lot of pictures, and it's a good stuff. And so basically I use it mostly just for, again, that reference look, looking for reference pictures. A lot of these are on the internet now, so like I go in, it's like I've seen these pictures before, like in German archives. For whatever reason, people just, you know, maybe the German archives is not regulating stuff, but I mean, it's everywhere on the internet. Just download it everywhere. So hey, cool, whatever. As long, you know, for now, I'll download it. My last book is, before I get into that, I didn't talk about price. Books do come with a price tag. That's why I talked about YouTube and model clubs and a subscription to a magazine company, because that kind of helps with the budget. You know, again, model building shouldn't be just for people who have a huge wallet, right? Model building is a hobby that should be for everybody, regardless of your income. Alright, so what can you do? You don't need the brand new books that are coming out with, you know, AK and MiG, and I'm not bashing these people. I applaud what they do. I give them credit. But I'm just saying, you know, if you're on a budget, there's a way to work around this. Go to a model show. Scrounge on eBay. You're going to find people. Model show is the best place, because you got model builders who probably have a huge library and they're just downsizing. I need to probably do that. Just They want to get rid of it. They don't want to bring that crap back home. And today, if no one's bought it, they're going to lower the price. You can haggle. I don't know if you haggle in Europe. In America, certain places, you can haggle. Haggling's fun. You can get older publications. It's still going to get you to where you need to go. So my thing is you can get a lot of, I would say half of my library is books I acquired from model shows. I'm really blessed and lucky that I got half a dozen that I can drive to within an hour's radius of where I live. You know, maybe for you it might be a little harder. Sorry about that. Again, check out eBay, check out Amazon. If you look on eBay long enough and with regularity, you're going to find people who are just dumping stuff. Huge lots. I started out, I got a big stack of books for like $30. Nobody wanted it. You know, it's kind of like a luck of the draw, dumb luck. Nobody was watching. I mean, if you go on eBay, you know what I'm talking about. You just snag things. Alright, you can find stuff. Now, that being said, I did recently purchase a book, and I think this is the most expensive modeling book I ever purchased, and I really took time to think about it. Because I am on a budget, and now you may think I'm not because of all the crap I have here. But I am. So, you know, I got the Frequently Asked Questions AK book, Dioramas. I got it for $75. It was a little bit lower than I think what the retail or what other places may be charging. I don't know. I know it's hovering around 100. And so I really looked at reviews on YouTube. I looked at what other people were saying on some forums. When I was at the model show, the owner let me look at this. I looked at it for like a half an hour. I thumbed through all the pages and I really asked myself, do I need this book? Will this book make any change to my model building? Either technique or my style, my general skills. And I had to say yes to all those questions. And so therefore I said, you know, I could really benefit from this book. And I think when you try to look at a purchasing of a book, ask yourself that question. How does this help me as a model builder? If it's not going to help you, why are you buying it? You know. So, but if it is going to help you and you're going to be better for it, then you can afford it. Then go ahead, go do it. You know, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money, and do what you want. Again, if you are on a budget or if you're a little bit scrupulous about all those sorts of things, you know, ask yourself some questions. And I guess that should be a general question about anything that you purchase. But this book is really solid. It's got everything in there. It inspires. It builds up your technique, your skill set. There's some general reference pictures, not a lot. There's a lot of data. Everything's step by step. The format's a little confusing because it's not it's staggered, and I don't know how to articulate it. But like, he'll be talking about a certain terrain feature, he'll start it, but then the next technique is like a few chapters and then he continues. So it's kind of broken down. It's not like from A to Z and you just follow the pattern, but it kind of stops, talks about other things, and it gets back to that later. So the format's a little unfamiliar to me, but I'm working my way around it. I usually just put little tabs or little bookmarks, so if I'm looking for a particular piece. But I'm so jazzed or inspired about this book. It's like what I want to do is kind of like build my own little diorama based on each of the little pieces that they go in, because they talk about everything, any kind of earth-like terrain. It's in here, and structures. It's like a cookbook. I want to cook all the recipes and eat them. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. There's a lifetime of model building right here in this book, and it's really good. So I hope you've that's it. That's all I got to say. I think I've talked a lot. My throat's kind of sore. So I hope it was helpful. I have no idea. But I just want to show you a little bit what goes on in my library and kind of what goes on in my head. Maybe it's not what goes on in your head, but you know, we're all different model builders, we're all different people, but that's what makes it all very interesting. So I'm wishing you all the best with your model building and your workbench creations, and I'll see you again here on YouTube. Goodbye.